Okay.
Okay, I want to give a little bit of background, Rhett.
Sure.
Rhett and I have known each other a long, long time, and I have gone to Rhett for physical therapy. And he is a real, a professional who cares and is interested in what he's doing and who goes the extra mile, which I have been able to see from other patients of Rhett. This is somebody who you want to use as a professional. So, Rhett, tell us a little bit about yourself and then launch into your program. I know everybody is excited to see it.
Sure. Thank you, Alan. Yeah, I've been a physical therapist for 20 years and have used yoga for much of that time. Certified yoga teacher now, also a professor in physical therapy. And I also travel the country teaching continuing education to physical therapists and yoga instructors so that these two professions can borrow ideas from each other for better outcomes.
I think we need your camera on.
Oh, okay. All right, there we go.
All right, super. Take it away.
All right. All right. Well, thank you for the time, everyone, and your attention. I promise this talk will be more exciting than watching Florida Turtles race. As Alan had me already say, I'm Rhett Schweitzer, a board certified physical therapist and yoga teacher. And as I mentioned, I teach these two professions on how to share ideas so that we can improve clinical outcomes. And I would like to go to the next slide, and I need to know how to do that.
Probably an arrow button, or you scroll down.
There we go. Okay, let's start off with a joke. Why did the yoga teacher get fired from her cashier job? Because she kept saying change comes from within. All right. I imagine if everyone had their speaker on, it'd be just incredible laughter right now. All right. As I mentioned, this is who I am. I teach physical therapy. I've authored 4 textbook chapters in physical therapy, and I teach coursework to PTs about yoga and yoga teachers about physical therapy. So, despite my training of these professions, this webinar is for everybody or anybody who has a body. All right, and if I could see you, I'd say raise your hand if you have a body. Since it's a webinar, I can't tell, but I'm imagining everybody does. So this is important for everybody, regardless of whether you're a PT or into yoga. And from now on, I will say physical therapy or PT, but I'm referring to physical therapy and occupational therapy as they're very similar and they can both benefit from adding yoga into the picture. And there's chances are that you'll experience PT in your lifetime, and many of you probably already use yoga. There's about 40,000 PT clinics in the US. That translates to upwards of 300 million treatments a year. And meanwhile, as of 2016, about 30 million people report using yoga, which makes it the most commonly used complementary health approach in the United States. And as I will show, you stand to receive objectively improved care if your PT or OT uses yoga in treatment, and your yoga teacher provides a safer, more therapeutic environment with some PT knowledge. All right, so this is the goal: better outcomes through sharing between therapy and yoga. Now, the goal of my webinar here is to teach how blending these two profession strategies will lead to better healthcare and safer yoga. And for this to translate to you and your needs, in the event that you need PT or you currently attend yoga, you have to want to appreciate how this symbiotic relationship should and could exist. So, if you're committed to learning all the ways that PT and yoga can benefit each other, ultimately for your benefit as a client or a patient, then Again, raise your hand even if I can't see you, right? So we're all in. All right. Here's our game plan. We're going to lay out the current problem with the divide in knowledge of these two professions. We'll explain how sharing some knowledge will benefit both clients and patients. I say patients for physical therapy and clients for yoga. And I'll tell you what you can do as a PT patient or yoga client to help this union to ultimately give you better outcomes. So the first question is, why is there such a strict division of different healthcare fields, and why is this a problem? There's always been divisions within healthcare professions due to a multitude of reasons, but mostly, I believe, due to the capitalistic nature of our healthcare system. Certain professions fight hard in court to restrict others' abilities to provide crossover services that they themselves want to own as their own. And this is ultimately a detriment to patients' health and to their wallet. So it's very clear, and the research supports this, when professions share knowledge and strategies, the winner is 100% the patient. And there's many, many examples of this. Frequently in medical research, we try to study things in a vacuum where we'll do one treatment, one intervention. And we find when we combine it with any other intervention, success goes up. So a lot of studies are limited because they're studying one intervention. But anytime we add in another strategy, the outcomes go up. For example, surgery is more effective when physical therapy follows it. Chiropractic is effective, but it's more effective when exercise is blended in. I mean, I could go on, but combining. We have not studied yoga and physical therapy combined, but if we did, we'd find they'd be more successful than each intervention on its own. So let's get more specific. How will the actual sharing of knowledge between PT and yoga help you as a patient? All right, first, before we go into the slide that I just went to, let me see if I can go back. No, I'm not going to go back. All right, we're going to get to this slide. But first, before we get to this slide, for those of you who have been in therapy, have been to physical therapy, I want you to think about how effective you thought it was on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not very effective and 10 being very effective. And generally, patients are generally quite happy with physical therapy. So I would imagine that most of you would have rated that at a higher number, closer up to 10. And same thing with yoga. I mean, people are choosing to go to yoga. They're not necessarily going there like with physical therapy due to an injury, although some are. But generally, people also would rate yoga as very happy. But there is some not good news. Despite the success you may have had with physical therapy, it turns out that no matter who you go to in healthcare, MD, chiropractic, acupuncturist, massage therapist, reoccurrence of the same original pain is extremely common. For example, shoulder pain reoccurrence is about 50%, and back pain returns about 84% of the time within 1 year, no matter who you go to. And my citations for those numbers are listed there. So maybe some or all of you have experienced this incomplete healing. I even personally have. So PTs and OTs and all healthcare, all medicine should ask this very humbling question. How can we increase outcomes and make people better in the long term? That's a tough question. We don't ask it enough. And what I'll tell you the answer is not, is boring home exercises. That is a elephant seal yawning all the way down at the South Pole because he's so bored by your home exercises that your PT gave you. You've all received those pieces of paper with bad drawings as pictured on the left here. I know because I have personally been drawing them poorly since 1999. Home exercise programs have a horrible compliance rate with non-adherence to home exercises at about 50 to 70%, according to 2018 study. So put another way, people don't like home exercises, and that's out of the gate. So you follow them up 6 months to a year, and 0 people, 0% practically, close to it, are doing their home exercises. So yoga is a solution to long-term healing by getting patients hooked on ongoing exercise that moves the body, moves the breath, and calms the mind. So yoga does far more than home exercises, not only being more interesting and increasing compliance, but it also addresses more than just these isolated single movements that home exercises tend to do. Now, there's also some not ideal news for the yoga teacher. Yoga teachers will be asked to come to the aid of injured people, and yoga teacher training does not prepare them for this role. So yoga does cause more injuries than one would expect. According to a 2017 study, yoga causes musculoskeletal pain, that's MSK, that's joints, bones, ligaments, tendons, muscles. About 10% of people who participate, and increases or exacerbates 21% of existing injuries. So that's pretty significant. In addition, many people actually go to yoga because of an injury. So both PTs and MDs are much more commonly referring patients to yoga with injuries, according to a 2007 study. So since that study, it's become much more prevalent. But again, yoga teacher training doesn't talk about injury, specifically musculoskeletal injury. So this means to be of best service to clients, yoga teachers need to understand basic physical therapy principles, including how to heal injuries. So we have the motivation and the justification for both professions to employ each other's knowledge. Okay, that sounds great. So I've convinced you that you want your PT to know yoga and you want your yoga teacher to know PT, but what can you do about it? So that's why I do what I do. I teach a 2-day course around the country to PTs and OTs on how to use yoga in their treatments. I'm not teaching them to be yoga teachers, but I'm teaching them to borrow really, really critical ideas from yoga, not just asanas, which are the positions we do in yoga, but also how to assess breathing and how to bring mindfulness to patients, which are both evidence-based. That means there's research backing these strategies for improving healing, and PTs do not use them. Rarely do PTs use the breath or mindfulness. So if you have a line to your PT and OT, then don't hesitate to tell them about this course. It's a very unique course. This is rarely taught. You can find some online courses, but not live. And I think live teaching is really important, especially in a field where we're touching patients. And I'll get them to use yoga effectively by the time you see them again. And then on the other hand, basically nobody, I can say basically nobody, is teaching physical therapy principles to yoga teachers. So I can assure you that your teacher would benefit from a course that I offer to that profession. And again, I believe it's because of this division that we have in the healthcare / fitness world, for, again, a multitude of reasons, but probably a little bit of ego and ownership is involved. And I don't believe in either of those. I believe in getting improved outcomes in our patients and clients and keeping people safe and healthy. So the course for yoga teachers is an 8-hour live course titled Physical Therapy 101 for the yoga teacher. And we cover how to effectively help heal orthopedic injuries using yoga. So basic ideas and concepts that they completely understand. They've got the anatomy background to appreciate what I'm talking about. And we cover neck and shoulder, back, knee, and ankle pain. which are the 5 most common musculoskeletal injuries in our population. And I've offered this course already, and feedback I'm getting from yoga teachers about the course has been fantastic. So I'm really, really excited about it. So my website is yogatherapyseminars.com, and I also will be available. I'm maybe through email, I'm not sure how, but I'm more than willing to answer any questions that anybody has. I like talking about this, kind of nerd out about it. And that's the, of course, if anybody wants any of my resources, email me. I'm always willing to share literature. Or if you have a question about physical therapy or yoga that I didn't talk about, please ask, and I can also probably share literature on that topic too.
So Eric, we got.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. What is what's a common symptom or situation that a yoga teacher would not spot and would cause some harm, where the teacher should say, wait a minute, if you have this, go to a PT or a doctor first?
That's a great question. Really good question, because that's essentially what I want to teach them. In that course, I talk a lot about when to refer. And what I also teach them is that many times you don't have to refer, because they can get nervous. Someone has pain and they get nervous. So I help them categorize pain. So to answer your question, if pain is acute, so it's really sharp, doesn't mean that there's something bad happening. Honestly, it's weird. Our body is weird. But if we have really sharp pain, it doesn't mean it's serious, but best to send it to somebody to evaluate it. So if 0 is no pain, 10 is excruciating, if it's over a 6, I teach the yoga teacher, let's get someone else on the team to just make sure it's nothing. Again, it's probably nothing. Most of the time, musculoskeletal pain is simply bones, muscles, ligaments, tendons, and those things heal really well with yoga. But in rare cases, it indicates something more serious, that you need a good diagnostician to assess. And both physical therapists and MDs have proven in literature to be very good diagnosticians of non-musculoskeletal pain coming from tissues other than the musculoskeletal system. So that's one example. Another example might be a person who might be osteoporotic. There's ways to ask certain questions. A lot of this is through just a couple questions, and that might be someone who you would definitely encourage sending on to someone to evaluate their safety in yoga. But these are rare cases.
What are the two questions?
I'm sorry. Oh, for osteoporosis? A history of fractures. That's a very important question, because if someone has a history of fractures, then they're more likely to be osteoporotic. And then it's not a slam dunk, but we can use age as a little bit of a measure. But again, that's not, to keep it simple, that's probably what I would narrow it down to 2. But there are other questions, but they would go beyond the yoga teacher's skill. So age and history of fractures is the 2 questions.
So Eric, let me put you on the spot here and hope for some candor. If you had back pain and you were like, oh my gosh, I have back pain, I've never had this pain before, I think I better go see somebody, would you personally go to, and if you know nothing, would you go to a physical therapist, a chiropractor, a yoga practitioner? The answer to that is no. An MD or an osteopath, and what would you expect from each?
That's a great question, and I like that question because it gets me a chance to step out of my worldview and ask truly, what would I do? And the evidence suggests that it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And that doesn't mean that there isn't a truth out there, right? Because research is always developing. But as of today, we do not have enough evidence to suggest one practitioner is better than the rest. I don't know about 5 or 10 years from now, but we don't at this point. The one group that it goes at the end of the line, the very, very, very end of the line, is the surgeon. We have enough evidence to suggest that we do not need to be talking to a surgeon until we have tried all conservative treatments, because the outcomes for back surgery are poor, and that's just fact. So it doesn't mean it's off the table, but you definitely have to exhaust treatments that do not have such a large downside before you go there. But other than that, it doesn't matter. And if you're not in this small number of people who have a hidden disease causing the pain, in back pain, it's about 1.8%. So it's not non-existent. That means 1.8% of people who have back pain, it's coming from more treacherous things like cancer or tumor or infection, among other things. But it's so that those people, if you're not in that group, then you could go to yoga. And there are some indications of whether you're in that group, and that's what I teach yoga teachers. There are things to look for, and don't get me wrong, even when you go to a PT or MD, they miss it too sometimes, because sometimes it's not black and white, but sometimes it is. And there's a couple things that the yoga teacher can look for to see if you're in that small percentage. But if you aren't, yoga has been found to be incredibly effective, in some cases as effective as physical therapy at reducing back pain.
Eric, talk about if you want to know what's going on in there, you get an X-ray or you get an MRI, and then sometimes the MRI you would think you'd be crippled, but you don't feel anything and you're absolutely fine. Sometimes the MRI, it looks normal, but you have a lot of pain. What is the human experience there? What's the wisdom?
Yeah, it's great question. So over and over again, we have established that X-rays should not be performed except for when there are red flags, which are those few things that tell us maybe you're in that small percentage of bigger problems. So all groups are on board. American Academy of Family Physicians say do not X-ray people unless they have those red flags or they've had the pain for a minimum of 6 weeks, minimum. Same with MRI. And the problem with doing these films is that when we do these films on people who have no pain, we find problems that should be giving them pain. That's well established. So when someone comes in hurting and we do an X-ray or an MRI, we tend to tell them information that might not be related to their pain. So because the asymptomatic population has the same X-rays and the same MRIs. So this is a tool that's very useful in many cases, but it needs to be wielded carefully. And your best bet is to treat it conservatively. Yoga, PT, chiro, acupuncture, a combination of all or any is fine and encouraged. And then if pain doesn't go away in no less than 6 weeks, but maybe even a little longer if it's trending toward better, because some pain sticks around for 8 weeks, 12 weeks, then you probably won't need the X-ray or MRI. You save yourself money, you save yourself the stress of knowing that you are slowly degenerating because you're a human fighting gravity, and your life goes on. That's the recommendation. And that's not just my recommendation, that's the research's recommendation.
Right. So Eric, if I want to go to yoga, what sort of certification do I need to make sure my yoga instructor has? Or is it a mixed bag? Seems like it's just like anyone can be an accountant. You just get an occupational license and put the word accountant on it. You're an accountant. How does it work for yoga?
Yeah, in a lot of states, yoga is unregulated, and therefore you don't need a certification or training. So knowing maybe that they went to a yoga teacher training would be reasonable. I think if you go to a formal class, most have gone to yoga teacher training. but it's not required. So that's a 200-hour certification, and it gives the basis for flowing through yoga with asana poses. So they don't get any, and there's some anatomy too, but there's not any training on healing. There's a small subsection of yoga teachers that go on to 800 hours of training, and they call themselves yoga therapists. They're very rare. There's about 3,000 compared to 100,000 yoga teachers. And their training goes a little bit more into emotional healing. They do cover some physical healing, but they're not physical therapists in any way, shape, or form. So there's two. So, but they do have more knowledge, and like I say, it's a lot of more holistic healing, talking about stress and emotional and mental support. I think they're a little more into psychology than physical healing. I'm not a therapist, so I'm not an expert in what they do.
What about a Pilates instructor?
Yeah, I mean, Pilates is great. And Pilates has more intertwining to physical therapy. So there is Pilates certifications for physical therapists. There is not for yoga, not well known. So Pilates and physical therapy have blended ahead of what I'm doing here with yoga and physical therapy. And Pilates is great. And I've done it myself. I'm not trained in it or certified in it. But it's another angle to attack pain that is completely acceptable. If you found your Pilates instructor was also a physical therapist, that would be awesome. And you can find that. That's probably more common than your yoga teacher being a physical therapist.
Okay, that's great. I mean, my own story and stories of others, I went to a doctor with back pain, and he said, well, you're going to go get an injection. So I went to a neurologist client of mine and said, I'm here to get my injection because my back hurts. And he looked at me with a face of amazement, and he said, Alan, before I put a needle in your spine, you need to go try yoga, Pilates, acupuncture, witchcraft, try everything before you ever let someone like me put a needle in your spine. So yeah, that's when I went to you, Rhett, and said, what do I do? And you showed me very simple exercises that no one had ever showed me before. Well, lie on your back and pedal your legs and stretch this and stretch that. And then I went and took Pilates, and it all went away. I never needed a needle in my back.
No, not at all. And the needles have a very low success rate. So that's a smart physician who's up on his knowledge and research and realizes that you will get better if you work it out and if you stay positive, which is why I'm teaching mindfulness to physical therapists, so we can keep working on the biopsychosocial model of healing, not just biomedical. We used to do biomedical, meaning you have a tissue, it has a problem, we need to do something to it, inject it, cut it, repair it. And it thought of people as just a tissue. And this goes back to an author from, I want to say, the early 70s, MD Engel was his name, and he came up with the idea that we need to treat people on more of a biopsychosocial form of healing. Biology is still important, but we've got psychology and sociology involved. And what we can take from that is we need to keep people positive and not scare them with tales of them breaking down inside, which is why the MRI is so destructive sometimes to people's healing, because it makes you feel broken. And when you feel broken, your morale drops. And this all is anti-healing because it's ignoring the psychological part of healing. So staying positive, staying active, and knowing that you're going to get better is one thing. That's one thing I teach yoga teachers that they wouldn't know otherwise. If someone has pain, teach them that they're going to be better within 2 months. Just tell them they're going to be better within 2 months, because if they put their mind there, then they're likely, the odds are so much in their favor that they're going to go in that direction.
Wow. That's great advice.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Eric, thank you very much for sharing that. Any final words that you want to? Oh, I have another question. What book would a layman read if a layman has back issues, and we all have deteriorating discs and this hurts and that hurts? What one thing would I be able to sit down and read for an hour to understand more about what's going on in my back or in my shoulder or in my neck?
I just read for the second time a really good book, and it's all on the psychology of healing. And it's called You Are the Placebo by Di Giovanni. If you type in You Are the Placebo book, it will come up because it was very popular. Um, um, and it's a fantastic book that shows how much of our healing is in our mind. And not that we're making up pain, pain's real, but we can steer pain through beliefs and through expectations and through avoiding negativity. And it's really, I mean, honestly, it's besides staying active in some way that you can stay active. That's the extent. It's okay to go to somebody and get their advice as long as their advice is congruent with stay active, keep moving. There are things that practitioners, PTs, chiros, acupuncturists, they can do to help lower the pain immediately. But the long-term solution is to stay active, which is why yoga is great because you get addicted and you keep going. But we need to get our mind in the right place, and You Are the Placebo is a fantastic book at appreciating how powerful the mind is when it comes to healing.
Now, all right. Well, if anyone has any questions for Eric beyond what I've read, just send me an email. I'll be glad to forward it. Or Rhett, do you want to give your email address, or do you have it there?
Sure. Yeah. My birth name is Eric, so my email address is Eric, and last name is Schweitzer. Schweitzer. Eric Schweitzer 75 at Gmail. That's my personal email.
Beautiful.
And I'm happy to answer questions.
Great. Okay, everybody. I hope you've had a nice experience with this presentation. I know I've enjoyed it, and I've heard some things that are going to help both me and some family members. Rhett, thanks again for joining us.
My
And
pleasure.
we'll see everybody next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, if you can stand even more of this. Thank you very much.